Today on TFL, you join me in stunning Sonoma, California to go for a first street drive in the brand new 2023 Honda Civic Type R. This is a car that we've had a chance now to walk around a number of times, but this is the first that we're getting to drive it. And helping me on this trip is our professional racing driver, Paul Gerard, who is also going to be doing a track review here at Sonoma Raceway. But before we get this car out on the street, let's first take a look at what makes it unique. If you haven't seen the new Civic Type R, there are tons and tons of differences between this and the standard Civic model. In fact, from this A-pillar forward, it shares none of its body panels with the standard Civic, which you can see in the wide stance of this car, as well as some of its aerodynamics, such as the hood scoop here, which is functional, as well as additional cooling for the brakes and a larger intake for this 2-liter 4-cylinders, additional horsepower and turbocharging. And let's go ahead and take a look at what lives under the hood. So this Civic Type R uses a more powerful than ever 2-liter inline 4-cylinder. And look at that. For once, it's not just a boring flat black plastic engine cover. Instead, this is a very colorful plastic engine cover that has sort of a carbon fiber type of appearance. It says Type R. Yeah, 315 horsepower, 310 pound-feet of torque. So it's up 9 horsepower and 15 pound-feet of torque from the previous generation. And all of that power is sent through a 6-speed manual transmission and a limited slip front differential. And now that we're looking at the interior, you can see that the Type R from the inside is very different from the standard Civic. For one, you have these much more aggressively bolstered bright red sport seats that have a really nice material to the texture of them. Also really nice texture here on the door cards, gives it more of a racing feel. Same thing that you get here on the center console. Today, Paul and we are driving the Honda Civic Type R. I'm going to do the street drive of this car, and Paul's going to do the track review. So this right now,
if I make it.
Yeah, if you make it to the track. So Paul has to suffer my mediocre driving today as we do this street driving review. But we're on some really stunning roads, which should be a pretty perfect place to test out this Type R. What do you think so far?
I've always liked this car.
Yeah.
I think it's a cool car, and it's something that Honda, who is a really, really great engineering company, let's look at their Formula One results happening right now with Red Bull.
Yeah.
You know, they put a lot of passion into this car, take a lot of pride in this car, and they always have.
Whoa, wheel spin.
And evidently put a little power in this car as well.
So Honda has been big about putting out the fact that this is their most powerful Type R that they've ever produced. So it's 315 horsepower, 310 pound-feet of torque from just a little 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo, which is an impressive amount of power from a small engine.
Yeah, it is cool, and it has just in the little driving we've done so far, I like the engine's characteristics. It's torquey, but it also kind of encourages you to rev it out as well. It kind of keeps pulling stronger.
Yeah, it does. And I don't notice a significant amount of turbo lag, which is surprising, again, considering that it's 315 horsepower from a 2-liter. A lot of power from a small engine, but it comes on well. It doesn't give you nothing and then smack you in the face with a big turbo, which is impressive from an engineering standpoint. Around the side of the Civic Type R, you have even more venting, plus this special side skirt here. And right now we are running 19-inch wheels with Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires, plus some mean Brembo brakes that make this car very grippy. You also get tons of additional aero at the rear, including this big wing on top of the rear tailgate, and of course, a big diffuser with the Type R signature triple exhaust in the center. In terms of the handling and the steering, I mean, so far, car feels good. I can tell what the front wheels are doing through the steering. It's not super heavy, so this is a kind of car that you could commute in easily, and the steering is not going to get in the way of that. I wouldn't mind it if the steering was heavier, and then in terms of the handling, very flat. And then we've got a couple different driving modes that we can go into. So now we're in comfort. Car gets a little bit quieter, suspension eases up a little bit, doesn't feel quite as firm. Yeah, I think it's a pretty easy, compliant car to drive. I think really my biggest issue with it so far is that the clutch is very light. Yeah, so it doesn't give you a ton of sensation or feedback. You know, I have a hard time figuring out where the bite point is through any feel in the pedal because there is none. But the transmission feels good, handling feels good, and yeah, it's just an easy car to drive. How are you feeling about the seating?
Actually, I like the seat. I think it's very well bolstered, and it's very certainly aggressive looking in the red color you get. Yeah. All of that, but it's actually a pretty comfortable seat. I'd love to have the seat bottom raked more with the front up more. I always like that in a performance seat.
Right.
But that's very typical of a passenger seat. I would imagine the driver's seat, I'll see when I drive it, but probably has a little bit more rake in it.
At the center of the dash lives a 9-inch infotainment screen, and this is a very useful screen. Of course, it has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but you also get tons and tons of performance pages that you can flip through here to get tons and tons of different metrics on the car. I mean, look at how many different temperatures you can pull up. You can see your G meter. There's really a lot here that you can do in terms of performance data if you're track driving this car. And if you want to see more about how this works, check out the track driving video that Paul is doing. Otherwise, I mean, this is a respectably responsive, easy to use screen. Same thing that we've seen on other Honda products. And overall, the car is just good in terms of the tech that it integrates. One thing that is unique to this particular car is our gauge cluster up front here. This is a 10.2-inch specific display for this car because it has, as you can see, some shift lights up top, and sitting in place, my RPM is limited to, looks like about 3,500. So the shift lights won't come on, but if you are driving hard, those shift lights will come on, and it gives you a good indication of it being time to shift. And it really, on these wet roads especially, loves spinning those front tires.
Jeez.
This is a torquey motor.
It is. It's kind of to your point where it's like, all right, let's talk about the elephant in the room. We're from Colorado, and this thing's front-wheel drive.
Yeah, so
and it always has been.
Front-wheel drive with a limited slip.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're at least not an open differential, but yeah, it is front-wheel drive, while some of its competition is all-wheel drive.
Yeah.
And yeah, all-wheel drive would be nice to have.
I've always wanted it because, again, it's not just, it wouldn't get up my driveway, which literally I couldn't drive this car home unless it had snow chains on it. Like, a winter tire is not even good enough for a front-wheel drive car to get up the roads near my house.
Yeah,
you have to have all-wheel drive.
Paul, for example, lives up in the mountains.
So I got to think about that because I would want to drive it skiing, and I would want to, I would want to do all those things with it because, like you said, it's a great daily driver. Why isn't it all-wheel drive? It would be a better car, and it wouldn't have to be any more expensive. I mean, obviously, be a better car.
All-wheel drive would make it a little bit heavier, but it would be a welcome sacrifice because it has enough power that throwing it through the front and rear wheels would help you not spin so much. It lights the tires
everywhere.
It lights the tires a lot.
Which is entertaining, in a way like an old hot rod was entertaining. It could do burnouts, and then you put bigger tires on it because you got sick of it.
But I will say, there is still a place for an old school front wheel drive hot hatch. And, to explore.
It's what they're supposed to be.
Yeah, they are.
I'm complaining about what, this one not becoming what many of the competitors have become, which is all-wheel drive hot hatches.
Now we're in our mode. It's plus R mode, which changes your gauge cluster. It pumps in some engine sound through the speakers, so all of a sudden it's louder in here. Everything is heightened, stiffened up, and the throttle response especially, you notice a big difference. And in our mode, it feels really good.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun to drive.
It's pretty darn stiff.
Yeah, but you know, it's stiff almost in like I get the same feeling from this suspension in the ride that I get from like a 993, 911. It's stiff and flat, but it's not crashy, you know?
It's compliant.
Yeah, it's compliant, which is not only good for your comfort, but it's good for traction as well, because if you have absolutely no give, especially on a public road, which is not a perfect surface like a track, if it's too stiff, you're going to lose traction, and this kind of feels like a good all-around.
Yep.
The trunk of the Civic Type R is cavernous, as you would expect, because of course the Civic Type R is based on the 11th generation Honda Civic hatchback. And if I throw my camera bag in place here, you can see it gets completely swallowed up. Underneath, you get a tire inflation kit. So there is no spare tire back here, just these tools. Now let's see how I fit in the back of the car. Sliding into the Civic here, first impression, it's really not bad at all. I mean, I have plenty of headroom to spare, and my leg room is also not an issue at all. Now, I am 5'10", so I'm far from the biggest guy at our office, but even so, I think you could be easily a couple inches taller than I am, and yeah, it wouldn't be a problem for you to fit back here. One unfortunate thing is that as a rear seat passenger, you don't get your own climate vents. It's really pretty sparse in the back in terms of amenities. You have cup holders in the center of this middle seat because there is no console that flips down, but that is about all you get. There's not even pockets on the rears of these sports seats. Overall, the new Civic is tons and tons of fun to drive. Plenty of power, plenty of torque, really great handling, and an interior that makes the car feel special, which, you know, for $43,990, including destination, it should feel special. And here you go, it does. So a lot of things that this Civic does really well, and this is going to be available in colors white, gray, black, blue, and red. And honestly, I think the red is my personal choice. It's a good looking color. Fuel economy is a combined 24 miles per gallon, 22 in the city, 28 on the highway. And the car itself is going to be built in Japan, though the engine will be built in Ohio. Now, be sure to let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to go check out the video that Paul Gerard is doing with this car here at Sonoma Raceway, driving on the track, giving you that expert perspective of how this performs as a track vehicle. So go check out that video, let us know what you think, and we'll see you all in the next video.